It's not an NBA trade deadline unless the Raptors are linked to everyone. But seriously, it's crazy how the Raptors always seem to pop out of the woodworks whenever a star becomes available. In this one, guys, I wanted to have some fun with this. There's been a lot of crazy trade rumors out there, and I wanted to give you my take on each of them as we get very, very close to that February 6th trade deadline. The Raptors, it remains to be seen what they're going to do. Are they going to be aggressive sellers? Are they potentially going to buy and make a win now move? A lot of things are on the table for this basketball team. I'm going to talk about all the latest rumors, though. Do me a solid, guys. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more. So let's first start with the wild trade rumors. And I'm going to begin by talking about the De'Aaron Fox link to the Raptors. According to Clutch Point's Brett Siegel, he says, one should never count out the Raptors from pulling off a big unexpected move for a star. Executive Masai Ujiri is always very precise when it comes to setting his organization up to make big moves, and it becomes clear that the Raptors want to find another young star to pair with Scottie Barnes. Could Fox be that guy and end up in Toronto, similar to how Kawhi Leonard did in 2018? Don't count out the Raptors for making a significant addition in the near future, as Brett Siegel did report that the Raptors have some level of interest in the Sacramento Kings star. And of course, this all stems back to Sportsnet's Michael Grange previously reported that the Raptors have been searching for a significant piece to pair alongside Scottie Barnes. And you look at Fox, he would be an absolutely dynamic point guard who would help boost the Raptors offense. I think he would be a perfect complementary piece to Barnes. For the sake of entertaining this, for the Raptors to get a deal done for Fox, they would have to part ways with Emmanuel Quickley, who the team just signed to a 5-year deal last summer. Of course, Quickley hasn't been able to stay healthy this season. He did come back in that game against the Bulls, but he's only appeared in 10 games this season. So that's the only way a deal would get done if Emmanuel Quickley is involved. And of course, the Raptors, maybe they pivot and go for a win now move instead of taking the slow approach. But the tricky part and the risky part about Fox is he's only under contract for one more season after this year, and he reportedly prefers the San Antonio Spurs as a destination when his current deal expires. So it would be a huge gamble for the Raptors. So given where the Raptors stand, I think if they are involved in a Fox deal, it would be as a facilitator to help get Fox to another destination. But I do not see the Raptors trading for De'Aaron Fox. And Fox isn't the only star that has been linked to the Raptors. Before this, Mark Stein got everybody riled up when he reported that the Raptors are a team to keep an eye on when it comes to Brandon Ingram, saying, I'm told Toronto has emerged as a team to watch. Again, going back to what Grange reported, that significant piece with Scottie Barnes. You look at Ingram, he's in the final year of his contract, earning $36 million this season before he hits unrestricted free agency this summer. So for the Raptors, this would be an interesting move because, again, going back to maybe Masai Ujiri is looking to speed up this rebuilding process and trying to be competitive as soon as possible instead of taking the slow approach. And for the Raptors to get a deal done for Ingram, I know there's ways you can make it work, and Jake Fisher reported on this because he doubled down on the Raptors' interest in Brandon Ingram, saying that Masai Ujiri has a ton of interest in the Pelicans forward. So there's ways to get Ingram by packaging multiple expiring contracts like Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher along with draft capital. But I think if a Brandon Ingram to Raptors deal gets done, you have to include RJ Barrett. I think the Pelicans would want Barrett back. And for as much as it's exciting to have a legitimate score first option next to Barnes, I think the fit would still be questionable. And I'm still under the impression that the Raptors shouldn't make any drastic changes right now. They should just see things through and still try to build properly through the draft. Be a seller, get back assets. I know this is a buy low type of move, but I'd rather the Raptors just be an aggressive seller and then try to get a top pick in this upcoming draft, tank the rest of the season, and get better that way than trying to go after a guy like Fox or Ingram. Look, Masai's made gambles before, and maybe he doesn't have patience in this whole thing, and maybe he feels like the opportunity to get somebody good is now, because you want to maximize Scotty Barnes playing the best ball. He's been, really good on both sides. So maybe they go more towards that competitive timeline. But I'm pretty much out on Brandon Ingram at this point. I will say this, if I had to choose a star for the Raptors to go after, I'd much rather be inclined to De'Aaron Fox. I think Brandon Ingram is more likely from the Raptors' perspective than De'Aaron Fox. But even with Ingram, I think the Raptors would have to part ways with RJ Barrett. And I think the Raptors at this point, they're not going to part ways with quote-unquote core pieces. They want to see things through a little bit more because, you haven't even had a big enough sample size to see IQ, RJ, and Scotty together. I know IQ is 1-9 as a starter, and that narrative's going crazy, but I don't think they'll give up on this group this soon. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. So those are kind of the two wild trade rumors that have made a lot of headlines, and maybe it continues to get hot, right, with the whole Brandon Ingram stuff. Then you move along, and Doug Smith of the Star reported that the Raptors are trying to get involved in a Jimmy Butler trade as a facilitator. I think that's where this team is at. I think that is the most legitimate in terms of how I see the Raptors operating, because they have these expiring contracts, and we know under the new CBA it's hard to make these one-for-one trades, especially for a guy like Bruce Brown who's making $23 million. So I think the Raptors would be absolutely valuable with those trade pieces in helping facilitate a larger trade. And by doing that, you get paid with draft compensation. And, a couple years ago, that's how the Cavaliers got Jared Allen. So I'm not saying the Raptors are going to get Jared Allen, but there's a really good possibility that if the Raptors help use these expiring contracts, not only do you get rid of them, but you get paid back. I think that's where the Raptors are at right now. I think that's the most likely scenario I see with this team. If a big trade for a star goes down, the Raptors will get involved in some way, shape, or form, because they are valuable as kind of that third or fourth team to get involved to help things work with their expiring contracts. And then there's other stuff like individually. Like, I think Bruce Brown will be tough. Like, if you don't move Bruce Brown in a larger deal, basically what I just said, like, I don't know if you're going to get a team 1-for-1 that's going to be able to take on Brown. I know the Nuggets have been interested in him, but there's no pathway really for them to get Brown. So it's hard based on what Brown's making. If you start looking at 1-for-1 scenarios, I think at that point, Chris Boucher is the easiest to move off from, and I think he's going to have a lot of interest. He's been linked to teams like the Clippers, and the Knicks reportedly really like him. So that's something I see going down. I think at the very least, like, Chris Boucher, in my opinion, is getting traded. Like, I'm a firm believer in that at this point. Like, you see it, the writing's kind of on the wall. He had played in all those games, played really, really well. All of a sudden, the Raptors DMP CD him against the Bulls. So I think Chris Boucher's time is done. Kelly Olynyk, I'm still iffy about, because I know the Raptors need more center depth, but maybe they're so compelled by Orlando Robinson, who they gave Olynyk's minutes to in that Bulls game, that they end up trading Olynyk. So I would kind of put Chris Boucher and Olynyk as likely trade candidates. And I'm still putting Bruce Brown as a likely trade candidate. But again, I think for Bruce Brown to be traded, it's got to come as a larger deal. I think 1-for-1, it's tricky. It's tough. So that's what complicates that. And then the other name that has come up a ton is Jakob Poeltl. I don't see the Raptors trading for him. Dan Wolke of the LA Times, I think that's how you say his name, he reportedly came up with the Raptors asking price for Poeltl, and the Raptors are looking for a first-round pick, maybe even 2. So I don't know if you're going to get teams forking that over for Poeltl. And the Raptors, they had to pay Steve Price to acquire Poeltl. I don't see them parting ways with him because, based on reports, this team feels like they can bounce back and compete next season, and you're going to need a center. And Poeltl has been valuable for this team. So that's where I'm at right now. Just to kind of recap, I think the De'Aaron Fox stuff, it's fun, but it's just chatter at this point. I'm not putting any, stock into that whatsoever. The Brandon Ingram stuff's more likely than Fox, sure, but I'd still be surprised if the Raptors went for an aggressive move like that and got BI. I think the most likely big trade the Raptors are involved in is helping facilitate a larger deal involving a star. Jimmy Butler, De'Aaron Fox, and then the likeliest I see is the Raptors parting ways with Chris Boucher, followed by Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. Although Brown is the toughest to move 1-for-1. So that's where I see things with this Raptors team. But it's a lot of fun to speculate this kind of stuff. We'll see what happens, but let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you make of all these crazy trade rumors? What are you buying? What are you not? Drop your comments down below. Drop a like on the video. We'll see how the next couple of days play out. And yeah, we'll see how things unfold and how this team looks a week from now. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. That's it for me. It's Luke signing off. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you all again in the next one.